Happy Monday, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you had a great weekend. And if you're looking at your bank statement and being like, oh gosh, why did I spend on that? Then don't worry, because this show is going to help you get a few tips here and there. We've got an expert who's also a friend of the show, because she's been on a couple of times and we love her here. Her name is Rena Hicks. She's an investment banker and author of the book MoneyWise, Create, Grow, and Preserve Wealth. She's also a YouTuber, so you're probably familiar with her videos. Rena, welcome back.
Thank you.
It's always so nice to have you here, and always feels like I'm talking to a friend about it. And I'm sure like people watching as well, like, oh, Rena, bless us. So the first point that we're going to, or the first part of the show, we're going to talk about digital lending apps, because they've become very popular in the market. But there's a lot to be said about them, and you know, you're going to guide us in a bit. But before that, we asked some of you guys what you think about them. So this is what you had to say.
Digital mobile lending apps, I think they are a great platform for people who want short loans, like the KCB, then the Safaricom M-Pesa one, the one on the phone. You're able to get quick and instant loans, because once you apply, it comes immediately on your phone, and then they will send you a reminder for repayment. So if you keep borrowing, you know, the more your credit goes up, and it's much more effective than, you know, going to a bank to get facility. And you know, going to the bank has become very difficult nowadays to get loans. So I think the more the platforms, the better for, I mean, like people like us in business to be able to access quick finances that we need.
They were created to help the society and improve the economy of the society. So in short, they are helping each and everybody.
Ile time maybe umeshikana kidogo unapata zina save, but sometimes pia unapata hiyo nini yao charges zao ziko juu, alafu wanakupeleka mbio sana.
But now the funny thing of it is they are too quick to take people to CRB. So you find like once you've taken money from them, you don't feel like paying, because you now have a double tragedy over here. You want to pay them, at the same time you want to go clear your name over there.
I think they charge a lot of interest. And I think anybody thinking of getting to these things, they have to think twice.
I'm thinking we are heading somewhere which will be not so good for our country, because we will have this more of these apps coming up, and they will not be so helpful for the country, because at the end of the day, a lot of us will be debtors.
But the word is, let us borrow responsibly. Otherwise, I don't see anything bad about them.
So Rena, why do you think lending apps have become so popular?
So it takes me back to, and this is my view.
Okay.
I think lending apps started from M-Shwari, and I think M-Shwari came in 2012.
Okay.
But when I think back to when I started seeing a lot more lending apps coming into being, was after the interest rate capping law came into force.
Okay.
And what that did was give a limit, a maximum limit above which banks are not allowed to lend or charge interest rather.
Okay.
Which means that at that point in time, the maximum interest they could charge was 14%.
Okay.
So it was 4 percentage points above the central bank rate.
Okay.
Right now, the central bank rate, or the base rate, is 9%. So the maximum financial institutions that are regulated can charge is 13%. So what that has done is, when banks look at who are they going to lend, they're in business, right?
Yeah.
And they're thinking, we need to make money, so we're going to lend people money, so that then when they return the money, they return it with an interest and we make some more money.
Yeah.
They will look for the most profitable customer to lend the money to.
Okay.
And they would accept that. So what they would do before, so for example, if I walked into a bank and I said, I want a personal loan and I don't have any collateral or security, they would say, no problem, you can take an unsecured loan and you will pay 21% interest. Because they will price in my risk. And then find ways to make sure that they cover their risk.
Yeah.
In addition to the interest rate, they would ask me to make sure that my salary goes into the bank and that sort of stuff. Right now, they're not able to price in risk adequately. So if Central Bank of Kenya is offering a bond, and they're saying, for example, right now we have a 25-year bond on offer, and it's 12.2%.
Yeah.
They would rather lend to the government at 12.2% than lend me, who is high risk and may not pay back. So that has really cut out a lot of SMEs from being able to access loans, and also just individuals. So what that has done is allowed for other people, Shylocks included, to find alternative. People are looking for alternative ways to raise funds for whatever it is they want to do, whether that's business or just regular spending money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I know.
How like one policy trickles down and completely changes how, you know, day to day we can access loans or how we
Right.
interact with money.
Yeah.
Wow. So so of course it's then led to a lot more of the lending apps coming about and a lot more people jumping on that. Would you classify that as good debt? Is it ever?
So it depends
good?
what you're using it for.
Okay.
So these apps are so, do you know, I found out there's over 50 of them. Over 50 different apps that exist that people have access to, where you can borrow within seconds of registering and downloading an app. Anyway, so it depends what you're using the money for.
Yeah.
If you're borrowing for business, for example, let's say I have a kiosk somewhere on the road by the roadside, for example, and suddenly I have an influx of customers who need tomatoes, and I don't have enough money for buying sufficient quantities, so that by the end of the day I've sold or I've met the demand that is there.
Yeah.
It's okay for me to go on my app, borrow from, for example, Branch, and borrow say 17,000 or 20,000, whatever amount of money I need to be able to then cover for my working capital to buy the tomatoes, and I'll be able to increase my revenue, and I can pay back the money tomorrow, right? So that's the convenience is amazing. I don't need to sit and fill it out any forms. I don't need to go and give a title deed or my car or any collateral.
Like,
within seconds, I have the money to be able to buy whatever goods I need to and sell them. And even if the interest is high, the period of time within which I'm paying back is so short that it's fine anyway, and I'll be able to have returned the money in good time.
And made money.
And made money.
Yeah.
So if you're using it in that way, by all means, it's okay. However, if I'm in a shop and I find a beautiful pair of shoes, and I'm like, oh gosh, I love it. They're calling my name. Then, you know, I would say perhaps not. Because, I mean, just walk into the bank and get a loan. Because the rates are quite high. On average, between 7.5% to about 15%.
For the lending
per
apps?
month.
Yeah. Oh,
Per
okay.
month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So those are the rates that are between the 50 lending apps that are there right now. 7 to 15%.
So actually, I know there's one that does about 3 or so percent per month. But the generally majority of them range between 7.5% per month to about 15% per month.
Wow, so it's not a joke.
It's not.
Yeah, and it only again makes sense if you're using it as working capital, like you said. So what are the risks that come with defaulting? Is it the same, since the steps to getting a loan aren't the same as, you know, with a bank? How different is it if you then default, if you're not able to pay?
Yeah, so if you default, unfortunately, well, fortunately, some of the apps I am aware give you about 2 months grace period. And they'll say, look, we'll roll over your loan. And it's fine. You can pay, but you have to pay within the next 2 months. We're giving you 2 months to repay before we report you to the CRB, the Credit Reference Bureau. Then, you know, that way you're able to find a way to pay. But if you do not pay, then you're listed on the CRB, and then you cannot borrow from anybody, because you become...
Until you're cleared or forever?
Until you're cleared. Until you're cleared.
Now let's talk about, you know, the fact that sometimes you might find yourself in a pickle, right? And you find that I not only need to borrow from this lending app, but I've got 3-4 others that I've been picking from and trying to get as much as possible. Because maybe what you're looking for is a large sum of money. Is that okay? What are your thoughts on that?
Again, it depends what you're using the money for. And most people actually are in that situation. Because you borrow from Tala, you borrow from Branch, you borrow from Mshwari, you borrow from several of them. Because a lot of them work in a graduated scale. So when you first download the Branch app or the Tala app, for example, they won't lend you 50,000 shillings. They use some sort of credit rating, a credit rating system that uses your transactions on the phone, and they have ways of using Facebook and the behaviors of your basically your telephone, contact details, who do you know? I don't know, it's very interesting. Intelligent credit rating to then determine how much should Sharon get. So we might both apply. Sharon gets 8,000 as a first loan approved. I get 2,000 based on who you're interacting with.
Interesting.
So it's very interesting. You actually have to give them access to your phone book. And anyway,
so you should be getting the right phone numbers at this rate.
Yes.
Wow.
And repaying your loans.
Okay.
And
Right.
They'll know if you, for example, bet a lot on SportPesa or Betway, whatever, and they'll be like, this person is probably borrowing too.
Okay.
It's a bit of a risk, and so
Okay.
maybe they'll not give you that much.
Okay.
They have their tools. Once you then now get approved, that's it, and you can borrow the amount of money that you need. So the danger is that they're such short-term loans. It's only 30 days, by the way. It's 30 days, and some of them you pay weekly, others you pay every 2 weeks, others monthly at the end of the period.
Right.
So then it can be a bit tedious, having to pay this one and the other one. And a month is a very short period of time. So the question is, you have to ask yourself, how am I repaying this loan? Where is the cash flow coming from? And am I sure I can pay it back? I think for me that's the biggest risk.
Okay.
The lack of repayment.
Yeah.
Because if you don't repay, the repercussions are so serious that it affects your ability to get loans later. Yeah.
Is there a likelihood that someone could get addicted or dependent on lending apps?
I think the ease
Yeah.
with which it happens. For example, today if I decide I'm going to borrow from one app and I get 2,000, and I mean 2,000 is not much money, and I need to repay it in 2 weeks, and I've said I'll repay it in 2 weeks, and 2 weeks is here, and somehow I don't have the 2,000. Okay, let me borrow from this other app to repay that loan, and then I have this other app, and so I can end up in a cycle where I'm consistently borrowing, and particularly for people who work in companies that are struggling in this season where salaries are delayed, and it's for really genuine reasons. You're paying for school fees, topping up for transport, topping up for genuine need. It's very easy to rely on the apps to sort that out. I think a better strategy is to find a way to increase your revenue or income for the long term. Because when you rely on them, you're continually in a cycle of repaying loans and you're not growing your savings, which means if you're hit by an emergency, it can be very difficult to recover from.
Yeah, and I remember you very clearly saying how important it is to have your emergency savings down, and you were talking about spending plans and not budgets. So it's really important that people don't get dependent on that.
Yes,
right?
It's very important.
So you've touched on something that I thought was interesting. How they're able to calculate how much you're going to borrow the first time, and how much access they have to, I don't know, your phone, your life, these other apps that you've got running. Are there any risks when it comes to privacy that's worth considering before opening an app and downloading it and registering it?
I've always asked myself that question because they get a lot of data. Safaricom, for example, knows everything. The data they collect is so huge that indeed it is a risk, because you'll find they will use that data to then sell you stuff. But I think there is a law that governs Safaricom on what they can and cannot use your data for. For example, they can't go ahead and sell your data to a third party for them to use for their benefit. And so there's laws protecting you from that. But from these other apps, these guys are not regulated. So it's just an issue of them being morally correct and just making sure that they behave well. But there's no regulator that governs how these mobile apps operate. So when you allow them access to your data content, you sign up using your Facebook account, they get all that data, and they can use it for whatever it is that they need to. I think the laws around privacy in this country are still not there. They're not sufficient.
Interesting. Okay, so point to note. Now, out of all the lending options that exist, where would you rate apps on that scale? If someone was thinking, I want to get an extra 10K, do you borrow from family? Do you get it from an app? Do you go to a bank? Where do you dip into your savings? I don't know. Where would you rate apps?
And it's not an easy one to answer, because I could want the 10K. I could probably get it from a family member, but I don't want the stigma of, oh my gosh, she's broke, or I don't want to have to deal with the relational challenges that could come from me delaying a day or two. See, if I'm borrowing from an app, nobody knows I'm borrowing the money. So it makes it comfortable for me to do that. I think if you can avoid borrowing, particularly if you're borrowing to repay, if it's for business, it's different. But if it's for little things here and there that you need to do
to fill in
to
like
fill
a
in.
gap before money comes.
Yeah,
or something
before
like
money
that.
comes.
Yeah.
I think find out. I don't want to encourage the apps per se,
Right.
but it's helpful where relational issues are concerned, not to borrow some little monies from, you know, a friend, for example. Because we have, I mean, even in the office, we have lots of challenges with people who sit together. This guy borrowed my money, you know, and he's not paying me back.
And he's gone for lunch.
Right, he's gone for lunch. In
Yeah.
fact, he went for this gig. How did he
Yeah.
afford that? He's not paying me back my money. So those sorts of things become an issue. So the apps have also helped, I guess, in that way, that somebody can discreetly borrow, pay back, and it's fine. As long as you know how you're going to pay back, it's fine. But again, try not to use it to finance lifestyle and consumer products. You know, it's for investing in a business or buying something that will then generate an income in the future, or that you can sell and get more money from.
Right.
Because I find that when you get used to that, then it becomes a cycle of continuously getting into debt.
Yeah.
So I'd say be careful about the convenience of apps.
Yeah.
Because you get used to it, and it's the way that you then run your life using debt.
Yeah.
Then at the end of the day, you're not actually saving towards something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a great note to ease us into break.
Sure.
Thank you, Rena. We've got more from Rena, by the way. In the next segment, actually, we'll touch on hustles, side hustles specifically, and all the tips that you and I need to know. So we'll be back in a moment. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back, everybody. We're here at Paquin by Radisson. It's a beautiful day, and we're talking about money with one of our favorites, Rena Hicks. And we're just trying to understand money from all different aspects, whether it's lending apps and now side hustles, which is synonymous with anyone who's got a career or is working or looking to make money in Kenya, I feel. You've just got to have a side hustle, huh? It feels like that. So, don't you think?
Well, it depends.
Yeah.
It depends what you do. I mean, I find for people in very demanding jobs that require, for example, the MD of you know, a big advertising firm may find it difficult to have a side hustle because of the time constraints. So it just depends. It's not everyone who has the side
Actually,
hustle.
my question then becomes, what is a side hustle? Is it just anything you do that creates a second income revenue?
Well, it depends. Maybe not everything that you do, because
okay.
you could buy a block of apartments.
Oh, that's not
a
a
side hustle.
hustle.
The hustle means you're hustling, which means there's a busyness about it. You're, you know, nganganaing sounds, you know, you're busy up and down, trying to sort this out, pay this there and whatever, sorting. So there's the implication by the words that it's a busy side gig, right? It's not just a passive income stream.
Okay. And what do people generally, like in your experience, what's been the response to like side hustles? Is that a good thing? Do people understand it?
I think Kenyans get it. But I remember talking about it generally with this partner we have in the US. Say, the side hustle, and looked at me in a very confused way and said, you guys, I don't understand this thing. If you've signed on a job to do what it is that you need to do, then you need to focus on that job and give the best that you have and can, 100%, 110% where you can, and build the business that you're in, so that then it gives you more income. At the end of the day, it doesn't make sense to divide your time between two different demanding things, because you're not being great at either one of them. And so for them, they just couldn't understand this thing of everyone's doing a side hustle. How do you guys do this?
Really? But then what do you call it? Like they tend to, and I'm probably generalizing, but from what I watch and hear, often like they'd end up having 3 jobs at any given time because you're trying to build towards their dream. And in my mind, when I think side hustle, it's you're building towards a dream, and perhaps the dream is the side hustle or something bigger that you're trying to create.
True. I think for me, the side hustle in our context is you have this job, and really it's just a job, right? To pay the bills. You're no passion, you're just doing it so that at the end of the day you have a roof over your head. However, there's something that gives you
drive
and just makes you so fulfilled. And indeed, it is financing that dream, that one day you'll be able to fully immerse yourself in this one thing that you could potentially do.
Yeah.
And so your job ends up most of us transition that way.
Yeah.
Your job ends up financing your side hustle, and I think it's a good thing because it fills your tank, and so you can get back to your job and give you 100% when you're there, because
you know
right,
you're
doing
working
this,
towards something else.
Yeah.
No, it's a bit of an enigma, I guess, in that sense. Like, do you give it all or half, or how much time do you divide? But actually, speaking of side hustles and where to start, what tips would you have for someone who's considering starting a side hustle? And we can talk about it, I guess, even financially.
Yeah.
What should someone be aware of before they
start?
Yeah.
I think before you start anything, you need to figure out what's the need am I trying to fulfill?
Okay.
Because the idea is this side hustle needs to finance something.
Yeah.
What's the need that I am fulfilling?
Okay.
That people have?
Yeah.
And have I found the solution that will meet that need? And you can only do that by testing.
Yeah.
And so you try and get feedback and get out there and find out, this is what I'm selling clothes, so I'm in fashion, or I'm a designer, whatever it is. And then just see, is the solution working? And the fact that you have this other gig that you have a salary from helps you figure that out and helps you take the time to establish whether this solution that you potentially have has potential and can work and it's viable.
Yeah.
But not rushing into this thing and saying, thanks so very much, I'm not going to do this other work anymore.
Yeah.
But the other thing I must say is that you cannot rob your job or your employer, even as you work there.
Okay.
And if you are going to take time out to do this side hustle, then have a conversation.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a secret. It shouldn't be something that you do on the side and nobody knows about it. It's important that you let people know what it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
And be a person of integrity.
Okay.
So that guys know. I mean, I have colleagues in the office, for example. At one point in time, we had a colleague who did what he did and then had an insurance agency on the side.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, but then eventually found out that everyone in the office had the insurance catered for by this guy.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but then I remember feeling robbed in the sense of, I mean, why I should have known about this.
Yeah.
It's important for me as an employer to be aware
Yeah.
of what's going on, and I can support him. You see, it doesn't, as long as it's not affecting work that he's delivering, and it wasn't, by the way.
Yeah.
It's just that I felt betrayed in some way, because I felt that this is something I should know about.
Right.
And it's not a good feeling.
Yeah.
And so I'd say that even as you do your side hustle, let your employer know,
Right.
or at least have a chat about it. If they're difficult, then at least let your person above you, your manager, know that you have this other thing that you're doing. It's not going to interfere with your work, and you're going to continue to provide whatever work is necessary to fulfill your role. However, there's jobs in this country where you can't. It's absolutely not allowed, particularly in the professional accounting and consulting services. It's not allowed.
It's not, okay.
No, it's not allowed. So if it's not allowed, then just don't go for it. But
Yeah.
then the other tip, sorry, before we move to the next question, is that I find a lot of people are happy to just keep financing a side hustle because you have a job. And so you start off, creating a business with a lot of money that the business is not yet generating.
Yeah.
So paying for advertising, paying somebody to work for
Yeah.
you, paying for, and yet the job is not, the side hustle hasn't proved itself yet. You're not sure whether it's a viable thing. So as much as possible, don't, because you're comfortable with a salary, make sure that you try as quickly as possible to establish whether this particular side hustle can pay for itself. And how you do that is you start slowly. You don't have to start paying somebody full-time, a full salary of 70,000 shillings a month. You can start with, can you work for me part-time, get interns to come work for you, and find workarounds and ways in which you can reduce the amount of money that you spend in starting up this business.
Oh, that's a good
Then you
one.
don't have to borrow money to finance this side hustle, or use a lot of your salary to finance this side hustle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I find people want to start really big with their side hustles, and yet you can take your time and start it slowly.
Slow. Right. So once someone decides they want to start it, should they go about registering the business immediately? Does that have to be the next step? Or can you just start and then see how it goes?
Yeah.
And then figure out, do you even want it as a sole proprietorship or a company? Yeah.
So depending on what it is, I mean, there's some work that you will want to get business from some corporates and they will not deal with a briefcase person. They'll need, so it depends. It's not, there's no straightjacket answer to that question.
Okay.
The thing about registering a business is that it's sort of final, in the sense that if you're registering a limited company, it's a whole huge process to wind it up. And so by the time you're registering a business, you need to be sure that this is something that you're doing for the long haul. It's not just something you're trying out for 2 months.
Yeah.
Because there's costs around that. There's costs around getting the documentation together, making sure that it's correct and well done, registering the right kind of company. You know, there's costs.
Yeah.
So before you incur those costs, be sure that this is something you can and want to do.
Yeah.
And so maybe you can try it out a little bit, perhaps with a consulting, initially consulting in your name, but with a view of trying to establish, okay, is this something that can grow?
Yeah.
And then once you can see that it's something you want to do and there's demand for it, then yeah, I'd say please register a business. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about some money management tips,
Okay.
specifically for people with side hustles, because you find that often the lines are blurred and you end up, you know, there are no clear lines as to what's the company's money, what's your money. You start picking, next thing you know, there's no money, you don't know what was made. So are there some quick tips you can share?
Yes. As soon as you can, open a separate bank account for your business, even if it's in your name.
Okay.
It's fine.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I found very, very interesting that I'm applying for myself is when you open that account, have it as a current account. Yes, you will need to, and it's transactional because you have to pay this, you get it, you know, it needs to be a current account. However, decide that you're going to make a profit from the word go. And how you do that is with each amount of revenue you earn, decide how much of that revenue are you going to put aside as your profit.
Yeah.
And then you will know that I only have, so let's say you decide it's 5% of my revenue, and my revenue is 100,000.
Yeah.
So 5% of 100,000 is what I'm going to put aside as my profit.
Yeah.
And now I only have 95,000 available to me to then spend on my self and expenses.
So where do you put that? Is that it going into reserves, or where is that 5%
so that can go into another
going?
It can go into another bank account. So the beauty about banking and bank accounts is that you can actually open sub accounts with the same account number, and you can manage them that way. So you have account 1, Sharon account 1, Sharon account 2, Sharon and the bank can actually name it whatever you want. So it's still your account, but it's a profit account. It's a owner's account where you put your salary, account for tax, because you by the way, please, oh my god, this is a big one.
We're going to get into tax in the next segment,
but you have to put aside money for tax from your revenue. Please just put it aside, do not touch.
Pretend it doesn't exist.
Pretend it doesn't exist. Put it aside. As soon as tax is due, make sure you pay it, because it can bring you down.
Woo, tax is a big one, and I think it's an area that a lot of people are often confused about, especially if you've got a business on the side. Because if you've got a salary, then you don't even need to think about it. It's already like it goes into the system and deducted. But if you're running a side hustle or a consultant, then you start to wonder, like, what percentage was that again? So, Rina, when would you say it's time to start paying yourself when it comes to the side hustle?
I think it's important to start paying yourself as soon as you can, to avoid taking money from your business to finance your personal needs. So that then the business and yourself are completely separate. So as soon as your business can afford to.
And by afford to, you mean you're able to cover your costs?
You're able to cover your costs.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, so the business, maybe I'm in film, maybe I'm a photographer. I'm a photographer and I take pictures, and I bought a camera, and my business has now paid off that camera. And now my costs really are my time, my transport, maybe my lunch.
Maybe some accessories if you're
in accessories.
Studio. It could even be studio, because maybe you're
studio
paying
fees, maybe I need an edit suite for something, you know, those costs. So in a month, as soon as my business can meet those costs, excluding me, then now after that, my goal is to get it to also include me in its costs. How much am I worth, and how much should I be paid by my business? And so it's not just about the business, I'm a cost as well. So I should be included in those costs. And once I'm included in those costs, then I should start drawing a salary from my business, so that then I'm not paying for shopping, for my rent, from my business, my personal expenses
Yeah.
from my business
Yeah.
until it can actually afford to, and I need to separate that. So how you separate that is paying yourself a salary that can cater for those needs, you know, school fees for the kids, transport for yourself, rent, water, electricity for your home, needs to come from, if it needs to come from that business,
Yeah.
then you need to pay yourself a salary
Yeah.
that the business can sustain.
Right.
So the other thing is you don't want to pay yourself too much that then you're not able
Yeah.
to pay for the
Other
studio
running
time
costs.
and other running
so
costs.
this month you decide, hey, this month I'll pay myself 50, and then next month you're like, I can't even take out 2,000
Yeah.
shillings because so it has to be standard, and it you can start even
Ideally.
with as little as 10,000 shillings a month. Would
even
you say?
five,
Even 5,000.
even 5,000. As long
Yeah.
as you want to try and make it as consistent as possible. Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Let's use the photographer example. This month I have gigs from here to, and I
Yeah.
get 200,000 shillings.
Yeah.
So I will decide to base my decision on how much to earn.
Yeah.
Not on just that 1 month,
Yeah.
but I look at my 3 worst months of 2018. What were my 3 worst months of 2018?
Okay. Yeah.
How much could those worst months
Yeah.
afford for me? Is it 5,000? Is it 2,000? Is it 12,000? Then I base my decision on the worst months.
Wait a second. So what if your worst months you didn't make any money? Then should
Well,
you?
Yeah, if you didn't make any money,
Yeah.
then you'll be like, okay, maybe I can't
Okay.
yet have a consistent,
Okay.
because the problem is that you will decide I'm paying myself this amount of money. You consistently pay yourself that 100,000, but then your business can't afford it, and you're denying your business the opportunity to reinvest, buy gear
Yeah.
that you could get more business with.
Right.
And so you're robbing from your future. So if you can just
Yeah.
wait until it gets to the stage where you have grown your business to a level where it can consistently pay you a salary, even if it's 1,000 shillings, right, to start off with, then ensure that it's consistent.
Yeah.
So then what you do is, once you decide, so let's say even if 1 month you didn't, so average of the 3 months is 5,000 shillings, right?
Yeah.
Average of the 3 months, it can afford to pay me 5,000 shillings.
Yeah.
Every single month, I'm going to have a bank account that says Rina's salary.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have the money. I've decided I'm drawing 3,000.
Okay.
So this month I've made 10,000 shillings.
Yeah.
Next month I've made 100,000 shillings.
Yeah.
Every month I'm going to decide what percentage
Okay.
of that money goes to Rina's salary account.
Right. So if you said 10% when you made 3,000 shillings, you only
Yeah.
get 300. If you said 10% when you made 100,000 shillings, you only get 10,000 shillings.
No, what happens, I will still get 3,000. But what's going to
Oh,
happen,
yeah.
the 3,000, because it's based on my 3 worst months,
Yeah.
it can manage.
Okay.
Now, what will happen is, there's months I may not do anything.
Okay.
But I will still be able to continue to sustain the 3,000. Why? Because
Yeah.
there's months where I've made 100,000 and I got 10% of 100,000.
Yeah.
So there's already a buffer.
Yeah.
So the decision I'm making is what percentage of my income goes to the salary account.
Yeah.
But what I draw out of the salary account is a standard 3,000 shillings.
Got it.
But I have a buffer from months where I've done really, really well, to ensure that the months that I've done really poorly,
Yeah.
I still
You're
have money
covered.
to cover me.
Right. So, but the idea is to be consistent. Whatever it is
Exactly.
has to be consistent.
Yes.
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, so now we've got to get into taxes. But first, before we dive into that world, we've got to take a break. So do not go anywhere. We'll be right back in a moment. Welcome back, everybody. We've been talking all things money. We talked about lending apps, we talked about side hustles, and now we're talking about taxes. Yay, taxes! Has anyone ever said that in their lives? Like, oh my gosh, hallelujah. We're about to know. But look, here's the thing. Like it or not, taxes have to be paid. So let's understand and educate ourselves on how that works, right?
Yeah, sure.
Right. So, first question, Rina. How often should one file their taxes?
So it depends.
Okay.
It depends. Are you an individual? So you're paying pay as you earn? Are you a business?
So we're talking
Are
business and consultants maybe, because I imagine pay as you earn is already predetermined, right? That it's every
So
month.
It depends whose perspective. If it's an employer,
Yeah.
you know, they have to make sure every single month, you know, so it depends.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So pay as you earn is sort of, like you said, it's determined, it's every month.
Yeah.
If you're, let's say you're a sole
Proprietor. Yeah.
The thing with a sole proprietor is you and your business are one.
Okay.
It's a most simple form of business
Okay.
that you can register.
Yeah.
And with a sole proprietorship, actually you use the same PIN number as you would as an individual.
Okay.
So the rule is that if you earn your profit
Okay.
is 40,000 shillings.
A month?
Not a month,
in a
for
year.
the year. So let's
Okay.
say in 2018,
Yeah.
the profit that you made from your business was less than 40,000 shillings.
Yeah.
Then you would file for your tax and pay taxes once a year.
Okay.
But if you foresee, or if your profit in your preceding year was higher than 40,000 shillings,
Okay.
then you submit tax quarterly.
Quarterly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm trying to remember the dates. I think it was the quarterly. So every quarter, 3rd month, 6th month,
9 months. Okay.
Yeah.
Ah,
On
okay.
the 20th of each of those quarters.
Okay. And how much is that percentage that we're supposed to pay?
There's a 30% tax,
Yeah.
right? But now it depends. If it was consulting work, there's 5% tax that is withheld
Okay.
by whoever you offered the service.
Okay.
But then now you would pay the 25% balance at the end of the period.
Aha.
Yeah.
So if you're a consultant, you get a gig and they were paying you, say 20,000 shillings. They hold back 5% of that. I don't know my maths. I can't do that quick enough. But 5% of that they take. And so you have the remaining 25% that you owe the government. But that you then have to determine if in that year you foresee yourself making more than 40,000 shillings profit.
If in the preceding year you did.
Oh, if in the preceding year you
did,
did.
yeah.
Okay. So it's not about foreseeing like this year, will I make it or not?
Yeah,
So
so-
you base it off of
Of the previous year.
previous year. But if not, then you would only pay the 25% pending at the end of the year.
Not
tax
the end of the year? Yes, the tax year, June
which is
30th.
June 30th.
June 30th.
Aha. Let's talk about then how VAT comes into play. And when you add the 16%, do you then have to only pay 14%?
VAT is different. If you are registered for VAT,
Yeah.
or let's say I am registered for VAT,
Yeah.
and somebody offers a service,
Yeah.
and I'm paying them a fee, I'm
Okay.
supposed to withdraw a certain percentage of their VAT
Okay.
to make sure I submit. What KRA is doing is, even if you are supposed to submit 16% VAT, you don't actually submit 16 because
Yeah.
I forget now the percentage. I think
Yeah.
it's something like 5%. I
Yeah.
can't remember. It's withheld, so you pay the balance of the 16. The reason that's done
Yeah.
is with iTax. If somebody submits tax, whether
Okay.
that's withholding tax or VAT,
Yeah.
then the government is able to tell that Sharon, under this PIN number, was paid some money VAT. She owes us balance of VAT of this amount.
That's when withholding tax comes into
Even
play.
VAT.
Oh, even VAT.
They've started the rule where the person who pays you
Yeah.
has withheld a little VAT. Yes, you will pay VAT,
Okay.
but you have to be registered. They have to be registered for VAT to be able to withhold that VAT
Okay.
and submit then on your behalf, and you submit the balance of the 16% of VAT.
So let's put numbers to it,
Sure.
so that I know we understand. I'm looking at the cameraman. He's just like, where are we at? So let's use 100,000 because it's a
Okay.
flat number, right? So
VAT 16,000.
VAT 16,000. So the amount that I charge you is 116,000.
Well, you could say inclusive or exclusive.
So
of-
let's say exclusive, because math now it's going to be tricky if we start subtracting 16. So let's say 116,000. Okay. So if I'm charging you 116,000, you would then take a small percent,
yes.
keep a small percentage of
Yes.
that. That's whether or not I'm charging VAT.
No,
it
no.
seems, right? Because you can also keep withholding tax, or is that separate?
So if you're registered for VAT,
Okay, if I'm
then you can collect VAT. If you're not registered,
Yeah.
I cannot withhold.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So I would not even take I would not be adding the 16% if I'm not registered.
For you, if you're being charged, if
Yeah.
Sharon is being charged VAT, you have to pay VAT whether you're registered or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But to withhold, I have to be registered for VAT to have the permission to withhold
Okay.
VAT.
So you would have to be okay.
Yeah.
In that case, you can withhold a certain percentage of 116,000.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I don't remember the percentage. I think it's
Yeah,
like 5%.
it's fine. Yeah. So that but then you still keep a certain percentage to sort of tell the government, hey,
Yes.
I paid this guy,
Yes.
plus VAT,
Yes.
and this is the amount.
Yes.
And then I would then need to pay the less.
That amount that was
Less than-
withheld.
Okay.
You
so
don't
I
even
don't
have to-
then
you
pay
see-
another 30%.
No.
Okay, so it's just that
So,
16.
yeah, it's just the 16% that you would submit.
Oh.
The 30% is on income. Is on profit. Is on
Ah.
profit. Income that you earn.
Okay.
Yeah, net income that you earn.
and okay, profit at the end of the day.
Yes.
So again,
If you're a business.
if you're a business.
Yeah.
So in that moment, I would then just need to give, that 16% to the government.
Yes.
But at the end of the year,
still have
I
to pay.
still have to pay 30% of whatever profits I have made. I get it. I absolutely get it now. I'm curious to know, do you find that a lot of businesses follow this structure, or is a general vibe that we're trying to avoid paying taxes?
So unfortunately
What's
for
going
this
on?
country,
Yeah.
which I feel is very unfair,
Yeah.
we only have about 2 million people who are paying taxes as they should.
2 million?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a rough figure of the number of people who are paying taxes as they should.
As they
and
should,
they
yeah.
are supporting the other 40 million Kenyans based on the taxes that they're paying. Why? Because a lot of people are not registered, they don't have PINs, certificates, they're not filing their taxes and things like that. So it's unfortunate. A lot of people completely avoid. Have you ever been to a shop where they tell you it's 5,000,
Yeah.
but if you pay cash, you can pay me 4,000.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that 4,000
Yeah.
is not registered for VAT.
Okay.
It's just taken in as cash, and it doesn't go through this, similar process, accounting
Yeah.
process as the regular business.
Uh-huh.
And so in that way, then the government loses that 16%.
Okay.
So people try and avoid.
Uh-huh.
They try and
Okay.
avoid paying as
Okay.
much tax as possible. But there's ways you can reduce the amount of tax you're paying. For example, a sole proprietorship doesn't get benefits of being able to cut down the tax they can pay.
Okay.
Because you pay on income, you don't pay less expenses. And a lot of people don't, there's only certain expenses that are allowable because it's like you.
Right.
So as a company limited, I can expense rent, I can expense water, I can expense medical, there's all these different expenses, transportation and whatever.
Yeah.
And then maybe I make a loss,
So you don't even have to pay.
so I don't even have to pay.
Yeah.
But if I'm Sharon, the consultant,
Yeah.
then I pay on income.
Yeah.
You pay on income, so you cannot deduct any expenses. So it's advisable if you
Yeah.
have a side hustle.
Yeah.
And you can see that this side hustle is something that you want to do for the long haul. Register a company.
Not a sole proprietorship.
Not a sole proprietorship. Register a company. Well, at least for tax purposes, you will pay less tax if you have a proper company that then you can expense a lot of the expenses
Okay, got
that
it.
you're incurring
Yeah.
to then deliver that service or
Got it.
product. Yeah.
Okay, so what is balance of tax? Can you break that down?
So balance of tax is where, let's say I'm a sole proprietorship and I have seen that I'm estimating, because now what you do is I'm earning, as again, I said you can pay in installments or you can pay once a year. If I'm paying in installments, I will have no idea whether I'm making a profit or a loss this year,
Yeah.
right? But I have to estimate, given my performance last year, in my first quarter, what sort of tax should I pay? Second quarter, what sort of tax should I pay? Now, if I find that my estimation was low, and at the end of the year I make much more than how much tax I have submitted to KRA, there's a balance of tax to be paid. Now that balance of tax to be paid that's what it's called. It's the balance I owe KRA that I need to pay for income that I have received and or profit I have made that I have not yet paid for.
Yeah.
And so that balance of tax is now what I have to pay by I think it's 30th of April
Okay.
of the following year.
Ah.
Yeah, so I file and pay for the balance of tax on the 30th of
Okay.
April of the following year.
Got it.
Yeah.
Now-
So it only applies when you're paying in installments.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what happens if you're not tax compliant as a sole proprietorship
Yeah.
and also as a
And there's so
company?
many people out there. Please, guys, KRA can totally destroy your life. I mean,
Yeah.
do you know, Sharon, if
Yeah.
you have a bank account today and you're not tax compliant, KRA has the right to freeze your accounts
Yeah.
and you'll not be able to do anything. It
Right.
can bring you to a halt. Completely. So my advice is, if you are not compliant, the beauty about it today is that these guys are people like us. They're not machines. And I would advise anybody to just walk into the iTax offices, have a conversation with the people there and just say, this is my situation. I was out of the country, I was in school, I lost my job, I didn't know you have to file nil returns if you're not earning an income, I lost my, whatever. Explain to them the situation, negotiate with them. Sometimes you find they'll tell you owe 6 million shillings and it's like, excuse me, what? And your income is 100,000 and you're like, but you guys are smoking something. From where? And then you prove, and you can prove, look, this was my income, I promise you. I promise this was my income, these are my bank accounts, and you can build your case, and they'll be like, oh, okay, I don't know how we came up with this.
Yeah.
And if you find it difficult, you can use a tax consultant. But to be honest, if you're not yet at the level of these huge companies that are making huge, you know, revenues, I'd suggest just walk in and talk to an iTax consultant at KRA, and speak with them and negotiate and have them prove to them that this is how much you owe them. Try and get them to waiver any fees and penalties, because they do that, and then work out a payment plan to ensure that you're compliant. And by the way, lastly, please, anytime you file taxes, ask for a tax compliance certificate for yourself as an individual and for your business. Every single time you file, which is once a year.
Woo, Rina, I have to say, many years I have been working. Many years I've been paying taxes. Many years I didn't know how it, you know, to break it down. But you've broken it down perfectly, and I get it now. Especially taxes. It was just like numbers and figures, and I didn't even know where it started and ended. So thank you. On a personal level, I know I've gained so much from this conversation, and I hope that you did too. Any last words, Rina, when it comes to hustles?
When it comes to hustles,
lending, apps, taxes, anything that you want to share, or anything that you're doing that's coming up?
People out there have had lots of experiences with lending apps. And many of them, I want to know what the experience is. I want to, because I want to do a series actually.
On your YouTube channel?
On my YouTube channel. I want to do a series on all lending apps to understand how do they work, what are people struggling with, because it's been a bit quiet. Like I haven't quite heard enough. And I want to be able to evaluate and also, when I'm giving advice, know that this is the right thing or the wrong thing, and which one should people trust. So I want people to write to me.
Moneywise?
Moneywise.
On YouTube, that's
on
what
YouTube,
it is, right?
on Facebook, on Twitter, whatever channel. If you want to send me an email, sema@moneywise.co.ke. Tell me what your experience has been with the mobile lending apps. Are they working? Are they not? What horrible experience have you had?
Tell it all.
Tell it all. Tell it all.
Thanks, Rina. It's always such a pleasure to have you here.
It's a pleasure being here.
And I do mean this. Every time we have a conversation, I leave the wiser. Any like money conversation, I'm usually like, tell me. I'm not going to leave here not knowing something. And I hope you feel the same too, and that you learned something new from Rina. All right, thanks so much for watching, everybody. I hope this left you feeling pumped for the rest of the week and the rest of the year when it comes to money and how you're managing it. And thank you to Parkin by Radisson, as usual, for being just the best hosts. We'll see you tomorrow, 8 a.m. sharp. Bye.